We're going to talk about the transverse abdominis. It's a very essential muscle. It's part of your core. It goes from your pubic bone up to your ribs and follows your hip crest and your ribs around, all the way around your body, and attaches into your spine via fascia. The job of this muscle is only to suck things in, to compress the abdomen. So very essential in terms of looking like you have a flat tummy, and it is also very essential in terms of stabilizing the spine. The way the transversus attaches into the spine, the fascia wraps around these little tiny muscles called the lumbar multifidus and the spinal erector group muscles, and when it contracts, the transverse abdominis, it squeezes these muscles so that they plump up like sausages, and that creates space between the vertebrae, which is what we call decompression. This is super important for controlling and managing back pain, as well as alleviating it and preventing it, most importantly. Also part of your core are your diaphragm on the top and your pelvic floor on the bottom. Today we're going to focus on the transversus. This is the key to looking good as well as to feeling good. So we want to make sure that no matter what exercise we're doing, whether it's a Pilates exercise or a gym exercise or group fitness, or if you're vacuuming or whatever you're doing, that this is working and turned on. Otherwise, you run the risk of destabilizing your spine and causing back pain and problems. So in order to check that you are doing this correctly, or that your client is doing it correctly, you need to find a position that's comfortable and practice it. So first off, we're going to start with sitting. So you want to have the clients, or you touch yourself to feel your belly and everything. And first off, you have to let it out, because things have to go out in order to come in. So we're actually going to push the belly out, and then we're going to pull the belly in. And we want to see some movement so that we can actually create a change and feel what the difference is. If you're already sitting there and it's somewhat in and you try to pull in and it doesn't move anywhere, it's very frustrating and confusing. So let it hang out, push it out a little bit more, and then pull it back in so that you can feel it. Now hold it there and see if you can deepen that. Now what we're not doing is, as you let it hang out, pull it in and rounding your back. Okay? Different muscles. Remember, this muscle does not create any movement except the pulling in on all sides of the abdominal cavity. Okay? So whatever tactile cues, if you want to look in a mirror, that can be helpful as well. But you want to make sure you go out in order to come in. When you start doing abdominal work and you're working on your transversus, you want to make sure that none of the exercises that you do are so difficult that you can't also maintain this. That is key. So for a while it may be very frustrating because you have to make the exercise a little easier, but eventually then you'll be doing the exercise right. So first off, I'm going to show you a couple other positions, and then we'll talk about what that looks like. The second position is going to be side lying. So you can just rest your head on your arm, your legs are going to be bent, and you want to make sure that your hips are stacked so that your two hip bones are right on top of each other and you're not arching or rounding your spine. You want to be nice and neutral. Neutral is the best place to work on your transversus or your core, because it's going to be the easiest and most effective place to recruit it. From here, let your belly hang out, and gravity will take it this time. Instead of down by your belly or by your pelvis, it's going to take it onto the mat. And then without moving your pelvis, you want to pick it back up. So you want to lower it down and pick it back up. And feel this pulling in as you're doing that. And then you want to try the other side. You may notice that one side is different than the other. That's absolutely fine. It's something that we want to build symmetry with. So you don't want it to stay like that, but it's not a big deal if it's asymmetrical to start. The third place that we're going to practice this is a much more difficult place. And we're going to do on your back. Okay, now you want to make sure that you have neutral pelvis again. So in this position, your hip bones, and I'm going to drop my leg down just so you can see, and the pubic bone are in the same plane. So you don't want it tucked under so your pubic bone is higher, and you don't want your hip bones higher. You want it nice and level. Don't worry about how much arch is under your back. That is irrelevant. Everybody's a little different. The bones are what you're looking for. So from here, this neutral pelvis is going to stay. And I don't care what you do with your hands. You can reach them down here. You can hold your head up. But you're going to fold right along here as you come up. And what you should see is that your stomach goes flatter and wider as you do this. irregardless of how much is here in the belly, it will go flatter. Not flat necessarily, but flatter than it was before. So we got big belly, when you pull in, it should go flatter, okay? Couple things. When you start doing abdominal work, the rectus abdominis, which is your six-pack, goes from your pubic bone to your sternum, and it will bulge up. Now, the transverse abdominis, this is the girdle one that we've been talking about, actually has fascia that goes over the top of rectus abdominis. If you use your core, your transversus, when you move and use your six-pack, your rectus, it will pull everything in and it will look nice and flat. If you do not use your transversus, your rectus will bulge out and look kind of like a bread loaf popping out of the middle. And some people like that because they can see their six-pack and they think, ooh, I'm working it really well. This is bad. You want to get the six-pack working, but you want to get it pulled in and get the transversus working, which is much, much more important. So we want both, okay? If you cannot do the exercise without getting the belly pulled in flat, it's too hard for you. You're not allowed to do it, at least at this point. This is essential to evaluating how strong you are and how appropriate the exercise is for you. So some ways you can modify: put the legs down, put the head down, make the exercise easier, slower, less complicated, all that kind of stuff. This is the basis of all exercise in terms of Pilates philosophy. This is also a good basis for any good core work. Now the word core, which we're talking about, the four muscles, the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, your lumbar multifidus, the little sausages, and the transversus make up your core. This group of muscles is built for endurance and it will not get tired. When you feel a burning, that means your muscles are tired and they're fatiguing and they're about to be done. This group does not do that, otherwise you would have big problems. The muscles that do fatigue wrap around this. So we have the external, internal obliques, and we have the rectus abdominis. They create the movement. They side bend, they rotate, they forward flex, and they burn, okay? Those are great muscles, we want to work them, but they are not your core, okay? So you don't ever want to say, I feel my core burning. Your core doesn't burn. That's a silly thing to say. We want to make sure that we have a deep, authentic pulling in, and we always want to deepen that. So eventually, as we train this in lots of different positions in Pilates, that this would become autopilot. Now, I'm not talking about, you know, the deep, deep squeeze in that we're working on when we're doing our Pilates, but it would get to be like a 30% contraction. And so that when you walk around, it's just kind of zipped up and just kind of pulled in just a little bit, so your belly isn't just hanging out. A lot of times when clients are pregnant, they take this as a, oh, my belly's supposed to hang out, and they just let it all hang out and it just stays out there forever. No, you still want to work your transversus. This is the key to a good, healthy pregnancy: no back pain, bouncing back quicker, and not having a diastasis, is to keep that transversus and work it. If I was pregnant right now, I'd show you my party trick of pulling it in and letting it out, because I can get like a foot difference at certain stages. And that is what you want. You want to have that strength and that flexibility in your transversus. So whether you're pregnant or not, this is the key, and this is what you should be working. This is the exact same structure in men as in women. And again, this is what's going to work on preventing and getting rid of back pain. Thank you.